Hello, and welcome to A Renewed Life Global. Discover secrets to heal emotional wounds, set boundaries, and move forward. I am your host, Dr. Beverly Carter. The title of today's interview is The Art of Empowerment, and we welcome Lisa Rasmussen to our platform today.
Thank you.
Lisa is an award winning artist and an acclaimed arts and healing practitioner. She is also a painter, an intuitive life coach, educator, curator, art advocate, world traveler, and animal rights advocate. I don't know what she doesn't do, but wow. She is the founder of the Harmonia Institute and the Harmonia Practice, where art is your catalyst for transformation, empowerment, and healing. Lisa has over 18 years of art and healing, teaching, mentoring with women and at risk populations.
Mhm.
She has created multiple transformative art programs and curated over 30 arts and healing exhibitions. With her organization, Artemis Sacred Journeys, Rasmussen leads women on empowerment art retreats in Greece and Ireland. She is also executive director and co founder of the nonprofit Art is Moving, or AIM. Over 58,000 international art breaks have been facilitated with AIM. She also served as director and co founder of Art for All People, an international center for arts and consciousness, where she co created the arts and healing practice called Yoga Art. We
Yeah.
welcome you, Lisa, to our platform.
Uh,
Welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we are honored to have you, definitely.
Thank you.
So, wow. Just is so powerful. I'm really excited about that and excited about having a conversation about the power of art and or how art empowers us, right?
Yes.
To live fully.
Yes.
So I've had my own personal experiences about and with art, and I've said, before, art probably saved my life.
Yes.
Do you feel the same? Did
Yes.
art save your life? Is that what brought you to this on this path? And how
Yes.
does it renew us when we heal from trauma?
Yeah. So basically, art really saved my life. I was born a really hypersensitive child, and my dad was a veteran of World War II, so he had really severe post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm this little hyper shy kid, and it was very um, chaotic, but also very loving, But I became very anxious, and at a young age, I developed social phobia and panic attacks. So my mom was an artist, and she kind of knew that it would be my lifeline. She led me to art, and I just started creating. And art was my place of safety. It was my place where I could communicate with people that I was afraid to communicate with. So that was the first lifeline. It kind of like I was a little kid. I would dive into art, and would ground me, and it would connect me to nature as well.
Yeah.
So it was truly my lifeline. It really saved my life at that moment in time. And then, I have kind of like a progression. And then in my teens, I became kind of like angst and kind of emo, kind of on the dark side, but I was still drawing and painting, but I expressed all those really dark emotions. So it was like, they weren't imploding on me. I was expressing them. That's the power of art. And then it was kind of amazing. It was a gift, but not. And I was in a really bad car accident when I was 18, and actually passed out for 10 minutes, and I had an out-of-body experience.
Wow.
And from that, yeah, it was like I saw myself on the ground. They were putting the halo on. It was a pretty bad car crash. And my mom actually told me, she's like, you had an out-of-body. I'm like, what? But after that, my art became transcendent. I knew that I was larger than something that I was. I became like, I was searching for mysticism. I became totally like a self-help guru. I just loved, like, I was just like soaking it all up. So I went from kind of this dark despair, kind of gothic reality into like transcendence. So then I started painting my dreams. I got out of a toxic, verbally abusive relationship with that. And then not to go on and on, but another key point was my mom, tragically, who was very important in my life, died in my late 20s. And I went to Nepal to spread her ashes. And during that moment, when I was in Chicago, a shooting star came into the sky, and I knew it was my mom. So I don't know why I had to go to Nepal, but I went to Nepal. to spread her ashes. And the day that I spread her ashes, we were on this river walking along, and the river went to the Ganges, which is the river of souls. And I was studying Buddhism at the time, but I didn't know the green Terra. A merit actually painted the green Terra like 300 feet up with shooting stars. And I was like, Mom, you know, I was just like, I was like, you know, wow. And if anybody's been through grief, it's a big abyss. Like when you're in grief, Kitty, it's just like a dark, deep abyss. And from that moment, when I saw the green Terra, I was just lifted. But after that whole experience, I was like, my grief kind of passed. But when I went home, I painted the green Terra, and she became like my mom. She became like my guide, and the green Terra is the mother of all Buddhas. So then from all this experience, my whole life, I'm like, this is huge. Like, I need to get my master's in fine arts and arts and consciousness to really understand like what has happened. And because I really want to walk the talk too, I want to teach people how I healed my trauma. Yes. And so that's when I went to JFK in Berkeley and studied. I got my master's in fine arts, in arts and consciousness. And that's when I started teaching kids in the foster care system that were emotionally abused. And that's really when I saw that what I knew, what I did with my own self through art, I could actually mentor them and pass it on where they're actually healed.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Tell us about your art therapy work with children in the foster care system, which I'm sure includes the whole mental health facility concept, seniors, at-risk populations.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So it was really, I guess it was walking the talk, and I really wanted to share with the world, I guess, what I came here with, that I came here with trauma, but I healed it. You know, it was an ongoing process through art. And I knew art is, I'm almost like, I heard it today, I'm kind of like an art warrior. So it's like, I want to give people the tools and the skills, which is innate. Everybody's an artist. No one like is 3 years old and questions themselves, am I artist or what? I mean, so there was, and just to kind of give some science behind it, there's an amazing study by NASA. They actually study kids that were, I think, were in kindergarten, and 95% of them, I don't know if you've heard the study, were creative geniuses. No. So they followed them throughout the year. I can get the study to you. By the time they were 30, only like 2% remained creative geniuses.
Wow.
So it's really art. I don't know why art is really like squashed out of us. But so to go back to the mental health institute that I taught in Oakland, some of the most serious traumatized children that couldn't, it was slash a school, they couldn't function really in the school, but when they came to the art room, they called it the calm room. And they would express themselves. And because I also have like fine art background, I got the children's work in galleries where they actually could sell their work. And I called it the art of transformation and empowerment. So a lot of these children who, you know, they received thousands of dollars from the art that they created in this art room, but it was all about transformation. And in the room, it was all about intention, and it was all about healing. And it was multisensory. I used scents and music. One story that I can share with you, her name was, what's that?
I said, please.
Oh, yeah. Her name, she was she could never stay in the classroom. She was always running away, but we became like, I was her mentor. I worked with her for like almost 3 years. And to my heart's desire, about 3 years later, she texted me on Facebook and said, Lisa, you taught me how to love through art. So that was kind of like a wow moment.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So it's like art is power, and art is our superpower. And if we just tap into it, you know, we become healed and healthier. I feel that art is our greatest teacher and healer on so many levels. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that, you know, that you leave the broad term art for however it's to be expressed, because, you know, it's not like one type as a preference over another. It's the expression of that art.
Yeah. And that you spoke about renew. That's really what it is. That for me, what I've known from my own experience in teaching, it's about releasing. So especially, I know this summit is all about trauma and healing, but art releases it. It's in your subconscious. And so your subconscious speaks in symbols. And I think I
Right.
read somewhere today, it's like your subconscious is 1,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. And it is 95%, 95% of your thoughts and feelings. So how do you communicate with it? Via art. How do you release that which is in your body and your subconscious? You have to like release it. And that's how you renew, you release it. And I love your question that you said. It's like, how can you, what is my action steps for relieving trauma?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so when we
so
get there, I want you to really like pull those pieces in some tangible ways for people to
yeah,
process.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want,
So
yeah,
yeah, just in a moment. Hold the
yeah, yeah,
thought for
yeah.
just a
Okay.
moment, if you don't mind. Yeah. Because I really want to like give people a good sense of who you are and how
Yeah.
vast your background, in terms of the art you've been able to help people facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I think it's a really powerful thing you've just said about how it's sort of, the creative genius in us as we're young, we're encouraged to get the crayons and,
Right.
do the finger painting and
Right.
lot and all of that. And then somehow it gets almost corrected out of us, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something. I'm not sure exactly what that is. But you have a not for profit, Art is Moving. Can
Mm-hmm.
you share a story about like Art Break Day, like what that is um what it means to heal an art wound?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna kind of go back a little bit. Artist Moving, we met in graduate school in arts and consciousness. My partner is Lauren Sharpton. And so we had a passion. We knew that everybody should do art and that art should be free for all people. And
Yeah.
so this was in 2009. We got an art grant for something called the Art Cart, which was on in Oakland, kind of in they were having social problems. It was like, and they needed something to kind of repair the social problems. So at that moment in time, Lauren and I got the grant, which was fantastic. And we said, art can do it. Art can like bring people together. So what we would do with this art cart is we would drag this art cart, which is about 6 feet tall, down the streets and park. I don't know if you know Oakland on Telegraph Ave,
Yeah.
set up a small table and ask
Nice.
random strangers to create art for free. And so that was
Awesome.
the inception. And what happened was, it's so amazing what happened when you ask people to sit down, strangers, they start talking and they start talking about deep, meaningful things. And Lauren and I were like, whoa, we're just like, what have we tapped into? Because we were both, outside artists. I was a teacher, but I never did like pulling random strangers from the streets. And so we're like, wow, this is just profound. Like, the magic that happens when people sit together. And there's something, it's a theory that I have, but when people start creating, their head goes down. And it might be something that just releases the flight or fight, thing that
Yes,
happens.
yes.
So they become very vulnerable and open. And we saw conversations that were so deep. I mean, we were sitting with homeless people, with shop holders, with, everybody. And every day that we were out there, we were like, this is magic. So that's where Art Break Day came. We're like, what if on one day in the world, the people would set art carts or art spaces up on every corner of the world and ask people to create for free? What would happen? And we kind of knew from our micro what would happen on the macro. So our first sites were in San Francisco. There was 5 of them. And so that day, it was like, I think it's the first Friday in September, it's our 11th annual. And we've had I think Lawrence tapped it out, over 137 sites worldwide.
Wow.
It's pretty wow. It's pretty amazing. So what happened that first year is, kind of Lauren had the eye experience. We had the eye experience of being in the art cart. So, but we're here in San Francisco in Embarcadero, and we're asking people, the tables are flooded. And this time we saw cops sitting next to homeless people, next to grandmas wearing Chanel suits, next to toddlers. And they're all having these amazing conversations. And we're just like, I don't know, art is magic. If you ever like facilitate it or do art, there's something in it that is purely magic. You can't even like say what it is. It's like, it's kind of like, it's just magic. So we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. So 11 years ago, we started it, and now we just keep on forging forward. And, you know, we've been in India, Europe, Africa. And it's the beautiful thing is it's a total volunteer movement. So it's all these people we gather who want to host, and anybody who's listening right now can host an Art Break Day site. That's the first Friday in September. You set up a site for free, and you just, you know, it has to be safe, of course, with COVID and all that jazz. But, you know, you just kind of like open it up, open a container, a vessel. And that's really part of facilitating art, is you open a vessel, a container for people to feel safe, and for people to express themselves and to have no judgment.
Yeah. So. Do you notice, did you notice any similarities between the sites around the world or differences?
You know what I do notice, that everybody who hosts them and everybody who goes, there's a real sense of joy and like connection and interconnection. It's just a really feel good thing. And Artist Moving's mission is, if you make art, you'll make the world better. So if you do the art, you'll make the world better. So if you are inspired, you can be an inspirer. So the similarity is, like, some people, I mean, some of the sites have been on boats, some of them have been on buses, some of them did on like a freight crate, you know what I mean? So it's open-ended. I think it's just the gathering of people and really asking. I think it's also the random act of, like, some stranger says, hey, want to sit down and chat with us and make art for free? And so that'll lead me to the Art Wound, which was my last, because we haven't had Art Break Day in person for the last 2 years because of COVID.
Right.
So we've been doing it online. But my last one was in Santa Monica, and it was at a public site with the city of Santa Monica. And it was really fun. We gathered, I didn't know any of these people, but in no time you become friends, because you're sitting there creating and you start just talking and, you know, kind of jazzing on each other. And this one lady comes in with her husband, and she looks really tentative. She's probably in her 60s. This is the Art Wound. And I'm kind of like all about trying to heal the Art Wound as well, because we got to heal those art wounds because we need to create. So she comes in, she's really tentative, but you can see she's interested, right? She's probably in her late 60s. And we're like, come on, sit down. Now we're all like a team. We're like kind of like cheerleaders. Sit down, sit down. She's like, oh, okay. You know, she sits down. She picks you, hand her supplies, simple supplies like pastels, pencils, acrylic paint. She starts creating very timidly. And then she says, looks up and says, I have a story for you guys. And we're like, yeah, what is it, right? We're like, what's the story? So, you know, she's like, well, when I was 14, I really wanted to learn how to draw. And I went to an art class in high school. The teacher the first day said, draw a tree. I do this magical tree that I thought was the best tree on the planet, right? She goes in the next day. The teacher says, come up to my desk. You can't be in this class. You can't draw.
Oh.
So obviously her heart was shattered, right? And I've heard multiple stories like this, because there's so many people in authority that I don't know if they know that they're creating the art wound or what's happening, you know, just the horror.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that story is, after she was sitting there for an hour, because at Art Break Day, people usually sit there for an hour. And the cool thing is they always leave their art. They never take it with them, which is fascinating. They want it to be hung with the collective, which is an interesting phenomenon. So she gets up and she's just so bright. She's shining. And she said, I'm so emotional. I have to thank you so much. I have not created since I was 14. And I said, you're going to get art supplies. She said, yes, I am. And so, you know, she walked out so full of spirit and so full of light. And so that was one, and that was an hour, and an art wound was healed. But she was sharing her story. She was sharing the trauma. She expressed it. But then she went to the other level where she was like, I feel good. You know, I want that serotonin that art, you know, that art sends off into my body.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I thank you for explaining what an art wound is. And unfortunately, I think there are a whole lot of people who can really relate to that.
Yeah. And it's unfortunately, it's one of those wounds like emotional trauma that you don't really see, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's completely subjective, right?
Yeah, and it's always, I mean, because I've taught at-risk populations, and I always like to inquire about those people who are a little afraid
Yeah,
of creating or a little
yeah,
timid, and the stories are awful, like
yeah,
even kids in juvenile hall, they were like, nope, the teacher said I should just be the janitor, I shouldn't do art, and it's like,
that's right.
it's like what, it's sometimes like what,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
and I think on some level, we all have art wounds. I mean, I experienced it
yeah,
also in myself, where I had
sure,
authorities that crashed my
sure.
turtle when I was in 5th grade, or
Yeah,
said my eyes look like roaches in undergrad. I mean, we've
yeah.
all had it. So
We have. I unfortunately, I don't. I have yet to meet anyone who hasn't
I agree.
been touched by something that we have to work through. And
Yeah.
yeah, and unfortunately, we don't get the luxury of going around it, over it, under it, beside it. You have to like go right through it.
You
And
do.
yeah, and I love this because, and you saying it over and over again, and it's so true, relating to the creating, that, because we are creators, we are
Yes.
master creators.
Yes.
And so like helping us realign with that fact, with that reality is so powerful. It just like, just empowering, right?
That's really what that is, the art of empowerment. It is really about that you are a creator and you can't deny it. And when you do, that's when it builds up emotional baggage, life
And
does not.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's what it is. It's sort of like whatever, like if you're not consciously creating, then you are unconsciously creating. And when it's an unconscious creation, 9 times out of 10, it's not what you want. So
Yes. I heard
yeah,
it
so
described as either you're a creator or you default, meaning
uh,
you go to you go into the fear process where your body sends out all the fear hormones, and you're reliving that trauma instead of going,
yeah,
oh no, I can create something new, I can create
yeah,
new neural pathways in my brain. I don't have to be
yeah,
stuck. Yeah.
yeah. So what is one method, or one type or one style of art that someone can use to help renew and heal themselves?
Well, I'm going to go, there's so many, because gosh, there's so many, because I'll tell you three if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So the first one was when I was, was a kid. It's really expressing your trauma, like really having the bravery. You don't have to show it to anybody. It doesn't even have to look like anything. You just got to express it. You got to get it out of your body. That's number one.
Yeah,
That's the first step. And then what happens is you witness it. You got to kind of look at it and go, that's not
mhm,
me anymore. What is this telling me? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because your subconscious is saying, oh, here I am. You know what I mean? I don't want to hold on to this anymore. I want to release it. The other way is really to express beauty, awe and
mm,
wonder, transcendence, connection with something larger than yourself, which happened to me with the Green Terror, where I was like connected with source, really
mm,
going into the beauty mode. The other thing is, which I developed, which is Harmonia, which is really it's all these it's an integration of all these multi-sensory things. Like I use essential oils are really prominent. I use tapping, I use chakra meditations, I use crystals, I use meditation, I use gratitude practice, and then we make mandalas out of it, but it's really intentional. So for example, if say you want to heal a trauma, the mandala might be an archetype, and you use archetypes too. Like you think of the hero's journey, Jung's or
yeah,
Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. You kind of go on that hero's journey through the art process. But I feel that one way to renew is really to do the multisensory, holistic way. We're not
right.
one-dimensional beings.
No, yes, that's right.
And it's like when you get some essential oils on people and they start creating art, they're just like, especially say you're a little anxious or a little fearful, get some lavender or some vetiver, and boom,
Hmm.
you're grounded. You grounded in a
Yes,
safe space, and you start creating on a different
yeah,
level. And then if you work with the chakras, which are internal, our internal energy systems,
right.
and then the stones, it's just for me, and that's my free gift, by the way, giving people the Harmonia practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this something, I mean, the healing that you're talking about, that we can do alone, or do we need to be guided through the process?
I would say that's really up to you. I say from my own truth, what I've discovered is I have gone to Jungian therapy for like 10 years. So I've done both, but it wasn't, I was doing the work on my own. And then I brought the work to them. So the art that I was creating around, say, my social anxiety or my panic attacks, I would bring them in. It's really, you have to, because I guess the bottom line is, although a person can hold space for you, you're the one that's got to really do the healing yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to do the work. I mean, and and sometimes if it is so traumatic, go to somebody. Yes, go to a therapist, or do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I certainly agree with that. And, do as much as you can on your own, but definitely get help, and guidance and mentorship through some of these processes, because we don't have to do it alone.
You don't.
And I think sometimes it's easier to lighten up, with other people in a process.
That's true. And it's like, what would be beautiful is that it's when you do it alone, you become empowered. But if you do it with, say, a therapist, that's a different form of empowerment, because then they show you how to become the witness as well, which is really powerful, because that's what I do with all my art, and which I teach also is once the art is created, like I saw your beautiful quilt, once it's created, you got to look at it and go, what do you have to tell me? What do you have to teach me? And once you've developed that relationship, like it's out of you and you create it, which is so empowering, so powerful, you go, well, what messages do you have for me? And that just takes it so much deeper.
Oh yeah. Wow. It's the truth.
Yeah.
So how does art become a catalyst, for empowerment and for transformation for us, as individuals, as society? What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, well, I think number one is, like we talked, you have to empower yourself as a creator, or I call it a creatrix matrix, which is really aligning with the divine feminine. We were talking about Mother Earth before the podcast, really align. I mean, if you think about her, she's like the most magnificent artist on the planet, right? On our Earth, what she does. But if you become your own creator and you kind of tap into that flow, you got to tap into that flow. And one exercise I can give, which is really simple to tap into that flow for your listeners, just take a piece of paper, take a pen, and start creating an 8 automatically. Don't lift your pen up. Don't lift your pen up continuously until it becomes very, very automatic, the 8. And eventually you'll lose kind of track of time and space. And that's just one really easy way of getting into that flow, which you do when you get into creative, when you get the judgment or the inner critic out of the way, where you're just creating for the sake of creation.
That's awesome. I think that could be helpful for a few things, actually.
Oh, like for sure.
Or, any of those things. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. There's something so powerful about our hands and their energy coming through the hands. And I think when you do it as an 8, which is a sign of infinity, right? And it's an archetype sign. And then if you do it automatically, I've done it where it makes so much noise, it becomes like audio, You're like, you're like, what's going on? So try it. Yeah, try it. It's pretty amazing for anything, for writer's block, for when you're feeling uneasy or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that tip. And just in following suit, what action steps from your perspective can be taken to alleviate the burden of trauma and heal emotional wounds?
Well, I think number one is make art. And I think, I mean, and make it every day, and really it's about process. Don't care what the outcome is at the moment. If you really want to heal from trauma, first you just got to get it out of yourself. And then from it, even like some of my most rawest emotional paintings or drawings have so much that you can take from and create from. For me, it's really, you got to get it out. And, you also have to remember that once you start doing it, you follow. It's almost like I was talking about the 8. It's almost like you become the 8 while you're doing it. You become the 8 as you're creating daily creation and dealing with things. And it's also about intention. I think creation should, well, it doesn't have to be, but to really heal, you have to have intention. A lot of times
Right.
I've done it, like I've wrote a poem on a painting before I like start painting on it. Or even
Wow.
like, yeah, like you embedded it. You embed it with
Mhm.
what you want. You can actually use images and then paint over them. Also, another
Wow.
beautiful exercises too is the act of revolution or rebellion, where you make a piece of art and you just rip it up and you just
Okay.
let it go. And especially if it's about trauma, you know, it's just that act, and that could be writing, that could be anything. And if you just really physically, you know, let it go and really
Yeah.
stand, it's really about standing in your power as a creator.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So how do we learn to set boundaries after experiencing trauma in order to heal?
Yeah. That's a big question. Because I was thinking about that question, because boundaries are about protection, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's why you know, you had the trauma. And I think it's really about you have to be aware of them, and you have to shine a light on them, you know,
Yeah.
and you have to shine a light on the trauma, and subconsciously and consciously kind of get together and create boundaries around what it would be, you know, for
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
Yeah, it's, and also I think gratitude practice is amazing. That's a
Yeah.
big boundary. And
Okay.
forgiveness, I'm sure you know
Yes.
Ho'oponopono, that practice is such a beautiful
Yes.
practice. Forgiveness. And then also really the boundary. And Mother Earth is here to help us, and she's here to heal our trauma, really connecting with Earth via, I do 10,000 steps of gratitude, my meditation, and I walk on the beach. I'm lucky to live on the beach, but every
Yeah.
day I connect, and I'm grateful, and I'm reverent of my connection with Mother Nature. And I think that really does heal you as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
set
would say,
boundaries, set those boundaries for you. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's beautiful. Okay. What does freedom look like? What does freedom from emotional traumas and oppressions look like? How do we move forward?
That's a beautiful question. I think
Oh,
freedom is such a beautiful word. Somebody asked me, what does art mean? I said it means freedom.
yeah.
A long time ago, like almost 20 years ago. I think art is freedom. So freedom is art. But I think freedom is when you release your emotional baggage, you release past that has been holding you back, and you
Yeah.
envision the highest potential of you. You envision yourself as an artist, as a healer, as a teacher, as an inspirer, and then you let your light shine in the world. I think once we get all this stuff, and we all have it, I mean, who doesn't,
Yeah.
you know, just clean it out. And then you can really walk in your true radiance of who you were meant to be. I think that is freedom. When you don't, you know, when you're not
Yes.
weighed down. And when you,
Yes.
and I love it. Also, I have this character also that I do, a cartoon character. His name is Kitty Bliss. But he's all about that. He says, you are art, I am art. So when you really look at yourself as art, meaning you are freedom, and then
Yes.
everybody is art, cats are art, nature is art. I think
Yes.
that shifts the paradigm. So freedom is really
Yes.
shifting that paradigm and shifting your mind state, where you're like, I'm going to reach my greatest potential, I'm going to shine my
Yes.
light, and I'm going to
Yes.
be in service to the world.
That's right. Be that creator, right?
Yeah, be the creator. Like, I mean, that's so exciting, isn't that? I mean,
Isn't
that
it?
vision of life is like, I can, you know, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it because it's the great mosaic, right? You know,
Yes.
there's no, yeah. I mean, I tell you. Do you want to share your free gift with the audience?
Yeah, so the free gift, let me see when I wrote it down. It's basically it's activating the inner medicine women or man within you. So it's a
Okay.
do-it-yourself Harmonia practice. And in the Harmonia practice, I always kind of activate the archetypes of the goddesses. So I
Okay.
found the goddess, I don't know if we're saying her, a Kesso. She's not the goddess of healing, but she's the process of curing.
Okay.
So there's a link that you'll send. So basically it's a do-it-yourself Harmonia practice. The mandalas there you can print out.
Mm.
And the thing is, I did a seagull. I'm not sure if you know what a seagull is.
The bird?
No, maybe it's called sigil, S-I-G-I-L.
Okay.
So it's like a talisman, but what you do is you kind of write out like what you want to heal, and then
Yes.
there's a do-it-yourself, and then you knock out all the repetitive letters and consonants and verbs. It'll be described. I'm not describing
Oh,
it
it
that
sounds
well.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a fascinating free gift.
Well, it's
We
so
are, uh-huh.
well, it's so timely, you know, because it's about perfect health. It's about creating your own, becoming your own health, and it's really about. So you're trying to envision your body, you know, as at its best. So the seagull becomes like a talisman for you to look at, and then your subconscious goes, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to manifest that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. That's
Yeah.
extraordinary, really.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. So, oh wow, I look forward to playing with that.
Oh, yes. And
That's
then please contact me if you have questions. I'm totally available through email or through the website. So
that's awesome. And what is your website?
it is the Harmonia Institute.com. And then my nonprofit is artismovie.org, where you guys can sign up for Art Break Day 2020-22.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful. I am so excited to have been able to spend this time with you and to learn more about art, like how to envision it and ways to put it back into our lives. And I'm loving the artwork behind you on the wall because I already know that that's your work. So
Thank
this
you.
is
Yeah.
yeah, really quite beautiful. Yeah. See. Yeah.
I think
Really.
just the last thing is about art is amazing. I've known as I become more connected to my true self and to the divine, my art becomes more refined. So it's a really
Yes.
beautiful measurement of where you're at in terms of like your personal growth, you know, what you're creating. So
Oh my goodness. Well, I am so thrilled to have been taught by you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, to learn from you. And on behalf of the audience, we thank you so much for this time. It's been an honor and a blessing. Thank you.
I'm grateful. Thank you for having me. It was so fun to talk about it. Hopefully I wasn't too energetic.
Oh no, you're perfect. We need the energy. We're creators, we're master creators, and that energy isn't static. It's in movement all the time.
That's right.
So yeah, so this is awesome. And I thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.